All right, great. Let's get started then. So you might have noticed in the WhatsApp groups that we had posted a worksheet for you all to download. It was as a PDF, and that is the worksheet that we will be going through in this evening's class. So for now, we will break up the worksheets into different pieces as we move along in this lesson. So for now, what you'll be doing is the first topic, that of positive guidance, the one with the first question of define and the second one match the steps to positive guidance. So we're going to start off there. All right. So what are the objectives of this evening's class? Firstly, the objectives are to identify the goals of classroom guidance. Secondly, we will be describing the effective techniques for communicating with young children in order to assist them to listen and for them to not misbehave. Thirdly, we will be distinguishing between punishment and discipline, which is a very important distinction to make. We will then be distinguishing between effective and ineffective methods of discipline. So as we go through, we'll be looking at different types of discipline and different methods of discipline, which ones are effective depending on the situations or the circumstances, and which ones do not work as well. And for those of us who are currently working with children and ECD centers, your input would be very much appreciated there as well. And then finally, the last objective for this evening's class is suggesting approaches for guiding, especially to difficult children. All right, so what we're looking at mostly is the term guidance. We are guiding our children and disciplining our children. Okay, we are not punishing our children. All right, so from the get-go, it's important to understand that children are not bad children. There's no such thing as a bad child, and there are specific reasons as to why children misbehave. These reasons could range from perhaps the child could be sick or tired or hungry. Um, I know I also tend to get quite upset and irritated when I'm hungry as well. So I'm sure that children can experience that as well. And also if a child is scared. So usually when a child is in a new environment or comes to your ECD center for the first day, they might misbehave a little bit. And normally that could also just be that they are scared. Children also misbehave when they need attention. And thirdly, children also misbehave when there are unclear expectations of them. Basically, meaning when they are not guided. So, if they are given specific tasks, or rather, tasks that are not specific, they might then misbehave because they do not really understand what they need to do or the expectations of what they need to do, what they need, how they need to act, or what they need to say are unclear. We also need to understand that as children are growing up, they are learning acceptable ways of behaving. And we, as ECD practitioners and teaching these children in our classrooms and in our ECD centers, are available to teach our children how to learn these acceptable ways of behavior. And also, there are children that struggle to cope with the emotions and also to control the impulses. And we will be looking at disciplining them as well. Right. All right. And the last point of that slide says that children need guidance. And that is the point of our class this evening. We're going to teach guidance and positive reinforcement or positive guidance as opposed to punishment. All right. So, what is the purpose of guidance? Firstly, the purpose of guidance is to maintain safety and order. For example, when you establish a rule against running outside. So they establishing rules can be a type of guidance for a child. And establishing a rule, for example, against running outside. So maybe the gate could be opened and there could be a road next to your school, or it's not safe for them to run outside. Or running inside as well. If there's tables and chairs with sharp edges. So rules are established and guidance is established in order to maintain safety, in order to prevent children not to hurt themselves in the classroom. Okay. And also to maintain order. If we have 10 children in our class, and they're all running around and jumping off the curtains. I mean, swinging on the curtains and jumping off the desks. There's absolutely no order, and you would not be able to get anything done with what the purpose of the class is. All right. The second purpose of guidance, sorry, I'm just admitting some learners. The second purpose of guidance is to teach children to learn to take turns, to share, and to resolve conflict. And I'm sure we've experienced this before in an ECD center where perhaps one child is playing with a toy, and then another child also wants to play with the same toy, and then they start fighting because maybe they haven't yet learned how to share or how to take turns in playing with the toy. And that would be an instance where guidance would be needed for the children. Guidance also helps children to develop kindness, respect, cooperation, and responsibility. So when we teach them, somebody's microphone is on. Let me just mute you there. So when we teach children, or rather when we guide children into learning how to share, learning how to communicate with each other, and learning how to take turns, and if we maintain order within the classroom, we can then assist also the children indirectly in developing kindness, respect, cooperation, and responsibility. And also by guiding how children speak to each other. So learning words such as saying please and thank you, and those types of courtesy words and words as well will require guidance. I am seeing, can I kindly ask if we'll just mute ourselves for this class because then I'm getting distracted having to go through everyone here. All right, thank you very much. All right, so let's look at our last part of that slide there. And the last aspect that we need to look at there is that it helps children develop self-discipline. And this is very important. What is self-discipline? Self-discipline is defined as the ability to guide one's own behavior without the help from others. So that is basically mean discipline of one's. Okay, just hold on. Let me just mute everybody. All right. So the purpose of self-discipline. So discipline can be done by yourself, for example, as the ECD practitioner or as the caregiver of the child. But self-discipline is your own ability to guide your own behavior without the assistance from others. And that is a very important skill that all children need to learn. And the purpose of guidance is that it helps them develop this important skill of self-discipline. All right, let us look at our next slide, and that is that of communication. So to provide guidance, caregivers must know how to communicate with children effectively. All right, and what does that mean? So what does it mean to communicate with children effectively? Before I get into that, let me perhaps ask somebody. Let me go through my list here. All right, Kaylin, are you with us?
Hi,
Hi, Kaylin, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. Can you give me some examples of communicating with children effectively?
Communicating effectively, especially with younger children, I would say from personal experience to kneel down in front of them look them in the eye and just talk with them, explain to them, and just be as calm as you can be.
All right. Why do you think that is important to kneel down and
I
look at
think because you need to be at the same level as them.
them? Okay. All right, perfect. And in terms of talking to them, you said when you talk to them in a like a low, soft tone.
Yeah, as calmly as possible because I personally think shouting at them won't help
Mm.
as much as talking to them calmly and explaining to them. I think they would understand more and you would get more out of them if you talk to them calmly and just explain more.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you so much, Kaylin. Let us look for other examples. Nasli. Nasli, are you there with us? All right, Nasli isn't with us. Timberlikle. Timberlikle. Hi, Timberlikle. How are you?
I'm fine.
That's good. Can you also give us some ways in which caregivers can communicate effectively with children?
Um,
Oh, sorry, your network is a bit bad. Can you try
can you hear
again?
me now?
Yes, I can hear you much better now.
Okay, thank you. I said,
And she's left us. I think her network was very bad. Nasli, I can see that you're back. Can you hear us?
hello, yes, I can.
Nasli, perfect. Thank you. Can you provide us with some examples of how you can communicate effectively with a child?
One example that I can say that you can communicate with a child effectively if you make eye contact with a child and what's the other one again? You make straight eye contact with a child and you get the child's attention to let the child have like the child's full attention on you as the teacher.
Okay, why would you say that that is important?
It's important for the child to be like attentive to you, just to know that you are there to teach the child and to yeah to learn the child in
Okay.
class. So it's yeah.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your examples. So, as Kaylin and as Nasli have now just indicated, they've given some very good examples of kneeling down to the child's level, talking to the child in a calm voice, and also getting the child's attention. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry about that. I'm not too sure what happened there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Let me quickly share the screen
Yes.
again. I I think it might be due to the bad weather that everything just switched off on me. So sorry about that. All right. So as I was saying, so it's important that we are guiding the children and not punishing the children. So as soon as you raise your voice, you look down at the child, that could be a form of punishing them, where in actual fact the child will follow your instructions, but not because they want to or because they feel that they should, but it's because that they are scared to. And that is what we do not want. And also, it was very important what Nasli said in that we need to get their attention and we need to be clear with them with what we expect of them. And that is one of the reasons, as we said, why children misbehave. It's because they do not have clear expectations. All right. So just some examples which we've touched on some of them already. So when talking, kneel down or sit at the child's eye level. Make eye contact with the child. Address the child by his or her name. So instead of saying, please pick up your toy, you would say, Jonathan, please pick up your toy, or Sammy, please pick up your toy. So you address the child by his or her name. Then it's very important to speak clearly, calmly, and directly with the child. And it's also very important to not shout or speak harshly. All right. And also use simple words and short sentences. Remember, these are children, they're younger than the age of 5. So we need to be very clear with them to give them very clear expectations so that they know exactly what is expected of them and what they need to do. And then finally, use positive statements. And positive statements we're going to get into later on. All right, actually, let's get into them now. It's in our next slide. Before that, let me just look in our chat box. I'm getting some messages. Timberlake is saying the network is bad. No, that's fine. There's no problem. And then Noko saying create a safe space for them to share their thoughts. Thank you so much for that, Noko. That is also very, very important to create a safe space for the child to share their thoughts. Thank you for that. All right, so we see. Hi, Noko. Sorry, now that you're on, would you like to elaborate a bit more on what you put in the message box?
Yes.
Mm.
And also you can allow them to create the safe space for them to share their thoughts and their feelings, and about building a strong trust relationship where the children feel heard.
Yes. Why do you think that is important?
I think it is important for the children to feel heard, like they can feel themselves, so that they are you acknowledge them.
Yes, yes. All right. And I think that's very important because when you acknowledge a child, they learn to respect you more and they learn to trust you more, which then indirectly
Yes.
leads to them misbehaving less and less, or them being more willing to listen to you and to follow instructions. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it's correct, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Noko. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, let's look at some positive statements. So instead of saying do not fall, you would say something along the lines of hold on tightly. Instead of saying no yelling, you would say please use a quiet voice or please talk softly or anything along those lines. Instead of saying stop crumbling the pages, you would say turn the pages gently. Instead of saying stop running, you would say please walk inside the classroom. So what we want to do is we want to shift away from being creating a negative demand or a negative space by using words like stop or no, do not do this, do not do that. That is what we do not want. Alternatively, what we'd rather do is we use positive statements. So instead of saying stop shouting, you would then say please talk quietly. And this is very interesting because it's the example of if you tell a child, and I'm sure we've heard this as we've grown up as well. If you tell a child not to touch the stove because it's hot, What will a child do? They'll go and touch the stove. But if you give positive statements, for example, instead of saying, do not touch the stove, but you say, can you please move away from the stove or something along those lines, that becomes more of a positive statement and no longer a negative statement. And that is very important. Does anybody else have some examples? Let's see. Shanae. Shanae, are you with us?
Yes,
Hi,
I was
Shanae.
unmuting
Can you give
myself.
us some examples? No problem.
Yeah.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. So, an example, instead of saying stop making noise, you can say, can you please reduce your volume, please? That
All right.
is better than shouting because we have to
Yeah.
get to their level. So, that is also better and not also hitting their feelings in the way.
Okay, perfect. And why do you think it's better to say, please talk softly as opposed to stop shouting?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Why do you think it has more of an impact on the child to say talk softly instead of go for it?
Because kids, they're different. So
Mhm.
some of them, if you talk in a loud voice, they might take that as it's a good thing to do. So when they get to their parents, they maybe the mom is gonna say something, then they're gonna also shout, and it's not a good thing, or they're gonna shout to a child, to another classmate, thinking it's a good thing to do. Because I'm a grown up, I did it, and they also take what we do from by watching us.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much, Shanae. Do we have Elia Goring with us? Elia Goring?
Hello.
Hi, Elia. How are you?
All right, and you?
Good, thank you. Could you also give us one or two examples of positive statements to use with a child?
Mm, we often say, would you mind helping us tidy the toys instead of saying, just tidy the toys now, for instance. Obviously,
Yes.
also in a nice way and do it with them.
Yes.
And also, we often, let's think of the other ones have actually kind of been said already that we use quite often. Or instead
Yeah.
of throwing out the sand out of the sandpit, we'd say, don't you want to maybe leave the sand in the sandpit so you could play with it a bit more?
Okay, that's lovely. Yes. And what, from your own perspective, when you use positive statements, do you see a difference or not really?
I do, yes. I feel like they then want to help you instead of throwing a tantrum or walking away or starting to cry and scream. So we have noticed that it's a lot nicer to deal with them and they like to deal with you.
All right, perfect. I think it's very important that children also need to want to deal with us as well. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Liam. Much appreciated. All right. So let us look now at let's go through the worksheet. Let me just open it up for us here quickly. I believe you guys did get it on your WhatsApps. Let me just open the screen share again. Let me just open the screen now. All right, and then I'm doing this right. Let me just quickly find it again for us, this worksheet. All right, here it is. All right, perfect. So let's quickly go through this and see what we've covered already so far. Let's talk to Tendai Mlambo. Tendai, are you with us?
Hello,
Hi, Tendai. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Can you see the document on the screen?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Perfect. Let's go through the first question. How would you define self-discipline?
Self-discipline on the child. Hello?
Yes.
Sorry, can you just say that again?
Yes. So if you look on the screen, the question there, it says they define self-discipline, the ability to guide one's what?
Um, the ability to guide one's emotions, behavior,
Okay, yes, behavior.
without maybe hitting. I'm not sure about my answer, but yeah.
No problem. Let me just remind everyone again. So, self-discipline is the ability to guide one's own behavior without the assistance from someone else. So, you're guiding your own behavior. That's where the word self comes from, and without the assistance from others. So, basically, you are disciplining yourself. So, you know that you shouldn't be shouting, or you know that you need to pick up that book that dropped on the floor. That is an example of self-discipline. All right. Thank you very much, Tendai. Let us check for somebody else. Pulen. Pulen, are you with us?
Yes,
Oh no.
I am.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let's look at the next one. Positive guidance. Can you fill in the blanks there?
The process of teaching children. The process of teaching children. I don't know.
Don't worry, it's not an exam. You're not
I
going to get
don't
marked.
know.
All right, let me help you there. So, positive guidance is the process of teaching children good behavior without harm physically or
Okay.
emotionally.
All right.
All right, while you're on here, let's do the next one. So it says they match the steps to positive guidance. There are 4 steps to positive guidance, okay? The first one would be, so they listed in A, B, C, and D, and you need to tell me in which order they would be in. All right. So which one would you do first? Would you react to misbehavior in an appropriate way? B, let children know how you want them to behave. C, take steps to encourage good behavior and present misbehavior. Or D, have reasonable expectations of children's behavior. Are you still with us? Pulen?
Yes, I am.
All
Step
right,
number
Gideon.
1, let children know how we want them to behave.
All right.
Step
Yes. So
number
we
1.
said that it's very important that you're clear with children, that they know exactly where they are, so that they have clear expectations. Thank you for that. The next step, what would you say is the next step?
Take steps to encourage good behavior and prevent misbehavior. Step 2.
All right. Perfect. What would you say is step 3?
React to misbehavior in an appropriate way. And step number
React
4, have reasonable expectation for children's behavior.
All right. When we say react to misbehavior, okay, let me stop you there. Let me ask somebody else. Thank you so much, Pulen.
Okay.
The next person, let me see, who have I not asked yet? Mbongiwe. Mbongiwe,
Hi,
how are you?
good and you?
Good, thank you. So just to add on, when we say that we need to react to misbehavior in an appropriate way, what is
Yes.
your example of reacting in an appropriate way?
We mustn't shout. Like we said, we must go on their what did we say? We must go on their level, like kneel down to be on their level, and mustn't use the loud voice and yell at
Yes.
them.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. All right, and then let us look at the next question. So the next question is we've got a few negative statements, so to speak, and your responsibility now is to make them into positive statements. So let's check Lauren Chantrell. Lauren Chantrell, are you with us?
Good evening.
Hi, Lauren, how are you?
I'm good in yourself.
Perfect. I'm good, thank you. So instead of saying, don't throw the sand, can you give me an example of how you put that as a positive statement?
Please, I would say please first.
Okay. So how would you say it?
Please do not throw the sand.
Okay, let's try this, but without using the word don't. Because remember the negative word here in that sentence is do not.
So you want me not to use don't?
Yes, because that is the negative word. So we're trying to change the sentence from a negative into a positive statement. So instead of saying don't throw the sand, and that's good, it's saying please is very important, definitely. But
Yeah.
how do I make the sentence more positive?
Um, oh, I'm stuck now. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll come back to that one. Can you maybe do the second one? So instead of saying, oh, no, the second one. Let's look at the third one. Don't jump off the ladder.
Please step down from the ladder.
There we go. Perfect. That is a great one. Yes. So,
Okay.
yeah, so instead of using negative words like don't yell, don't shout, don't throw the sand, you would redirect the child. So instead of saying don't throw the sand, you would say please put the sand down, for example. Don't jump off the
Okay, so
ladder.
that's really
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Right. Thank you so much, Lauren. Let
Yeah.
us get somebody else here. Let's get Hendrina Koza.
Hi,
Hi, Hendrina. How are you?
good, thanks on yourself.
Good, good. Thank you so much. I see you're engaging in the chat box. I really do appreciate that. So let us look at the second one. Do you know what a smock is, firstly?
No.
Okay, because I also don't. But let's change that word smock. Let's say um, socks. Let's say they need to put on their socks. So instead of saying, don't you want to put on your socks? What would you say instead?
Do you want me to put on your socks or do you want to put on your socks by yourself?
All right. Now there's got a hint there, and the question is, should you give the child a choice? And what do you think?
Yes, I always give choice.
Okay, so let's say you need to go to the shops and you want to take your child with you and you're asking them to put on your shoes. And then you ask the child, don't you want to put on your shoes? And the child says no.
Okay, I see what you're saying now.
So how would you navigate that?
I would say, um, let's put on your socks so we can go to the shop.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So I do understand where you're saying that the child should be given a choice, but there are certain instances where a child has instructions, where you need to give a child instruction, all right? And in those
Yeah.
instances, we said that the child needs to have very clear expectations, and it needs to be said to them directly and clearly. All right. So in that instance, you wouldn't say, don't you want to do this? Wouldn't you want to do that? You would have to make very clear examples. Thank you so much for that. Let's use another one while you're on the line with us. Let's look at number 5. So instead of saying, stop running in the classroom, what would you say instead?
Uh, can we please walk instead of running?
All right, perfect. Yes, thank you so much for that. So you would say, can you please walk? Or even, can you please walk instead of running? That is perfectly fine. Thank you so much, Indrina. And then I just want to quickly take a look in our chat box. Thank you so much to Elia and Shania for for guiding us with what a smock is. So a smock is a top or a dress. And Shania says a smock is a loose protective garment worn over clothes to keep them clean. All right, thank you so much. And thank you also, Noko, for your example of saying put on your socks. Let's see, who have I not called on yet? Let me just quickly go through my list of people. Queenicious. Queenicious, are you there? Queenicious? Okay, I can't hear you at the moment. I will get back to you then. I'll ask you the next question. If you can maybe try and fix your sound in the meantime. Next person, I'm not sure. I'm getting confused with names. Lena Simpson. Have I asked you yet? Lena Simpson. Is Lena Simpson with us? No. Okay. Noko Delina. Have I asked you yet? Noko? Okay, there's also no no call. All right, but that is perfectly fine. So I'm going to stop the sharing the screen, but I think we do understand the grasp of it, of changing negative statements. Instead of saying stop doing that, do not do that, we make it more positive. Okay, so stop running in the classroom, for example, you would say, please walk in the classroom. Okay, let me stop this share now, and then let's go back to our slide. All right. Okay, now let us quickly look. We only have 10 minutes left. So let us quickly look at our next slide here. Next topic we're going to look at is discipline. So most teachers and parents do agree that some form of discipline is necessary to guide a child's behavior. We all should understand that already. So, along with guidance comes discipline. And we all know that there are certain instances whereby discipline is necessary. Okay. The word discipline means different things to different people. To avoid confusion, childcare professionals use the term positive guidance or discipline. And that is defined as the process of teaching children acceptable behavior or good behavior without harming them physically or emotionally. Okay. So the correct definition of discipline would be positive guidance would be in assisting a child or teaching a child how to act or how to behave acceptably without hurting them physically, which is very important, and also without hurting them emotionally, which is just as important. And I believe that we are all aware now that legally speaking, corporal punishment is unlawful in South Africa and is considered a crime. That is very important to remember. So, hurting a child physically, whether it's a little slap on the hand or anything along those lines, does fall under corporal punishment in South African law. And if you do that and you do get caught doing it, you could get a fine from the court, or and if it's a more serious case where the child is perhaps bruised or hurt, you could get a few years in jail. Okay, so that's very, very important to understand. We do not discipline a child physically, and we do not hurt them emotionally. And it's very important to understand that. Actually, let me ask somebody, why is it important that we do not, for example, smack a child or or hurt them emotionally? Let me see. Who have I asked? Mbongiwe, have I asked you before? Mbongiwe.
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask
Yeah,
you again. That's fine.
it's fine. You can ask me again.
Thank you.
Yes,
Can
what
I
is the
why is it
question?
important? Why is it important that we do not hurt, like, we do not hurt the child when we discipline them, that we do not hurt them physically or emotionally, so that we do
It's
not.
my own opinion, right?
Yes.
It's my own opinion, but I smack my own kids, so it's fine. Um, I think you like building the hatred in them, and they become stubborn. They don't listen anymore. That's my own thinking.
Yes. So let me just clarify that a bit more. The reason why corporate punishment is illegal in South Africa, and that relates a lot to much of our social context, where we are sitting in a country where there's a lot of gender-based violence and there is a lot of abuse that happens, particularly amongst women. There's a there's a lot of crime in this country and there's a lot of violence in this country. And according to scientific and psychological research, it was determined that hitting a child or smacking them when they grow up makes them want to do that to other people as a form of discipline. So that's then when they become bullies, for example, like Noko said now in the meeting chat. So what they pick up from home is what they do to other kids. So if, for example, a child gets smacked at home and now he wants to play with a toy at school that's with that's busy with another child, what will he do? To enforce his authority or to enforce his control, he will then physically hurt that other child. And then as they grow up to being adults, we know that there's a lot of gender-based violence, and that happens when you get into a relationship, for example, and then you get into an argument, and because your partner doesn't listen to you, you feel the need to smack them because now you feel like you need to discipline your partner. And this all boils down to positive guidance and behavior of a child from when they are little. So harming a child physically by smacking them or emotionally by shouting at them or insulting them teaches them that that is the appropriate way to get something done, and that that is the appropriate way to discipline a person. And that leads to very harsh consequences as the child grows into an adult. Is there anybody else that has any other input there? But I think I covered it quite well. I see Noko said something in the chat box. Noko, do you want to quickly unmute yourself? Do you have anything else to add there?
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to say we don't want them to become bully.
Yes, yes, definitely not,
Mm.
definitely not. And
Because if you
that's
continue disciplining them the way you did, they will copy that things and things is the right way to do.
yes, yes, definitely. Thank you so much for that.
Mm.
And Shanae also posted in the chat box, she said emotional well-being. Children who are hurt may feel scared, sad, or unsafe. This can affect their confidence and how they trust others. So remember, when we discipline them, we need to do it positively. That's why we're teaching positive guidance, because we do not want the child to be scared of you. We do not want them to feel scared or to feel unsafe. All right. It needs to come from a place of respect when they follow instructions, and needs to come from a safe space. They should not have to do things because they are scared or because they are unsafe. Okay. And as they grow older, this can affect their confidence and also how they have trust in other people. So many people who were smacked, for example, as children, they might grow up to be very shy people. They might grow up to have trust issues, and all of that boils down to how they were disciplined when they were young. All right. Thank you so much, Noko and Shanae, for your input there. All right. So let's look at the steps to positive guidance. First one, as we've already said, have reasonable expectations for the children's behavior. All right. So you also need to understand when you say have reasonable expectations for children's behavior, you also need to understand that when children are, for example, playing in a group, sometimes they will be loud, sometimes they will be noisy, sometimes they will be a bit rowdy. So it's important to have a reasonable expectation as well, okay? So that when you give them instructions, for example, if you say, could you please keep a little bit more quiet, all right? You need to understand that the expectation that you give of them need to be, they need to be reasonable. All right, step number 2, let children know how you want them to behave. And that's very important. Children need to have a very clear understanding of what they need to do and how they should behave. And it's your responsibility as the ECD practitioner to very clearly explain that to them. And then step 3, take steps to encourage good behavior and prevent misbehavior. And then step 4, react to misbehavior in an appropriate way. So when we say take steps to encourage good behavior and prevent misbehavior, do we have any examples? Let us call up Indrina Koza.
Yes.
Can you give us
Sorry,
examples?
sorry, I
Yes.
missed that.
Could you give us examples for step number 3? So examples of encouraging good behavior.
Examples of encouraging good behavior. You can model the behavior, like if you see kids fighting, you can say, keep your hands, we all keep our hands to ourselves. And just by showing them how you treat others, and then maybe they'll see that you're treating others well, they'll also treat others well.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. And also, maybe I would just add on there, congratulating the child or showing a happy expression or affectionate expression when they do something good or when they behave well. So if you ask them, for example, to do something, for example, please put the toy back in the box. And they listen to you and they put the toy in the box. You can clap your hands for them, say, hey, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you. Just make a little, just make them feel happy and proud for what they did. And that also has a very big impact. And that encourages them to want to keep on doing the good behaviors. All right. Thank you so much. Let's see, we have, yes, Mbongiwe in the chat box says praising them also, as what I've just touched on now there. So praising them is also very, very important. All right, so let's quickly, so those are the 4 steps. Oh, what happened here? Those are the 4 steps. I see it is 3 minutes now to 7. So I think before we continue into the steps in more detail, I think I'm going to stop there. I just want to see in the meeting in the chat box, Noko also says they avoid showing anger or frustration. That is also very important. Remember, we said we look at them at eye level, we talk to them in a calm voice. So if you show anger or frustration, you only make them feel scared and unsafe, and that breaks down the confidence and trust issues. All right, does anybody have any question before we end off? Because there's 2 minutes left of this class. You can unmute yourself if you have any questions or any comments. Good comments.
Hi, it's Lauren again.
Hi,
I
Lauren.
just wanted to,
Yes.
I just wanted to say I actually enjoyed this. My first time interacting and also starting this journey now. But
Oh,
I
is this
didn't
your
know.
first class?
Yes, my first time, so I didn't know what to expect, but I actually enjoyed um this meeting.
Oh, thank you so much. So I'm actually not the official facilitator. The actual facilitator, she's quite ill. Her name is Sophia. So you'll meet her next time. But you won't hear much from me. I'll only come in once a while when it's necessary. But I'm glad. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed the class.
Okay.
I will pass that on to my boss and ask for a promotion. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other comments? Mbongiwe just asked now quickly in the chat box, do we need to fill in the questions and submit it? No, you don't. These questions you can do on your do it on your own time. But just keep it up because next time, just keep this worksheet because next time we're going to continue with the 4 steps. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I need to get going now to our next class. Our next class is a social worker class. So I want to say thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you for answering the questions. Thank you for engaging. And I wish everyone a lovely evening. And I will see you guys next time. Remember, recording will be posted in the groups. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.